So picture this, you're playing guitar with your friend and they start playing a song. Maybe they're going to do some vocals and play some open chords on an acoustic guitar. Or, to put even more simply, maybe you're just practicing guitar at home and you listen to a song and you want to find a way to play along with it that doesn't involve just playing the same open chords as the song already contains. And one of the most asked questions I get from beginner and intermediate guitar players is, how do I play along or accompany another guitar player, and how do I write a really good part? Thankfully, this is something that I have to do all the time in my work as a session guitarist and sideman. It's something that I do every single Saturday when I play at a residency with my friend Ashley Faith in a duo, where my role is just to support her and the chords that she plays and to add a little bit of musicality and a little bit of interest to the arrangements. Now, obviously with music, there is no rules. There is no rules when it comes to improvisation and to writing the right guitar parts, but because beginners and intermediate players will struggle with this, I think in this video the most important thing of all is to highlight my approach that I use for every single musical situation, regardless of genre or arrangement of, other musicians, whether it's like a trio, a duo, or a full band. And more importantly, I want this to act as a really solid foundation for you to explore from further. Now, the place I always start is triads. I think triads are so universally applicable and people harp on about triads all the time, but for good reason, because they can be really, really versatile, especially if you learn them in a few different positions and you learn a few different inversions. If you don't know what an inversion is, it's just taking a major or a minor triad and it's just swapping the order of the notes. The next thing I do is something as simple as just assessing whether the song is going to be in a major or a minor key. It's as easy as that. It doesn't require any more thought about modes or scales or anything of that type. Just think about whether the song is major or minor, because that's going to inform how you might embellish some of these triads and chords. Because if you're a lead guitarist, for example, then you might want to start adding in some licks and some embellishment around some of these triads to add that level of melody and a bit more interest to the general arrangement. If I know the song is in a major key, then I'm going to be playing embellishments out of the major pentatonic scale. If the song is in minor, I'm going to be using the minor pentatonic to do all of my lead playing. I'm not going to get into modes. Let's keep this super simple, because often if you're accompanying, another musician, if you're playing in a duo, less is often more. You don't need to play a million notes and make things too busy. It's just about playing the right notes and about being tasteful. So let's start by looking at some examples of some triads. So we've established that we're going to be doing this in the key of C major. So if you're going to be playing over the C major chord in this progression, there are a few places that I think are really good starting points to enable you to play a C major chord that doesn't involve playing that kind of chord. So let's start simple by taking a sort of C power chord or a C bar chord here on the 3rd fret of your A string. Next, we're going to play a triad on your 5th fret on the D, G and B strings, and we're going to add the 7th fret on the A string in the bass. This is an inversion of a C major chord. Next, we're going to move it up to another traditional C major voicing, which is using the bar chord here on the E string on the 8th fret, and then we're going to play another triad up here on the 12th fret using kind of like a D major shape. These shapes all come from the caged system. Now, if you haven't heard of the caged system, I have done a video about it on the channel a while back. I will link it up here somewhere so you can watch it after this video, and there's a ton of great instructional content out there about how the caged system is really useful. I absolutely love it. It's something that I think about all the time now when I'm in these types of musical situations, and use that as kind of your roadmap for understanding your different places to play the same major chord. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add a second chord to this progression, which is going to be the F, which is the 4 chord. So this is super simple. We're just going to do a C to an F, and you're going to want to do the same thing again, just with your F major triads, and you're going to map them up and down the fretboard in the same types of voicings that we just used for C. So these F major voicings are all taken out of the cage system, and I've chosen these because they fit quite nicely alongside the C major voicings that we looked at earlier. Now, the reason that I like to use these voicings is because I find that the major scale, which is what we're going to be using to do all of our embellishments, sits really comfortably around all of these voicings. So now let's look at some examples of how we can play the major scale in a few different positions that overlap with these major triads that we've mapped out. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples of how you can use some lines or some phrases from within the major scale to join some of these chords together. So we'll start by playing the C major scale using the root note on the A string on the 3rd fret. We're then going to play in the relative minor pentatonic for C major, which is A minor. So outlining an A minor pentatonic scale gives you the C major tonality, and then we're just going to take that position up to the 8th fret to play the C major scale there, because that's going to cover a lot of ground that we can then improvise over. Now, a great exercise when you're doing this is to start thinking about clusters of frets, and you're going to want to comfortably transition from your 1 chord, which was C, to your 4 chord, which was F, but you're going to want to use a different triad for each time around that you go around the progression. So it's important to try and get familiar with how the C major triads and how the F major triads fit comfortably together in certain frets and in certain positions. And I'll give you an example now. The key here is just to get comfortable with the shapes and to give yourself as much freedom and as many options as possible up and down the fretboard for both the C major and the F major chord. The reason that that's important is because then when you're trying to embellish and you're trying to play some of these phrases to link the C chord to the F chord, you're going to be able to visualize that a little bit easier if you can see over a C chord where your nearest F triad would be in relation to that. Here I'm limiting myself to one section of the C major scale, and I'm going to use those notes to connect the 2 chords together. So you can picture your C major scale as kind of the connective tissue between all of these different chords. If you learn it in a few different positions that I've highlighted today, then it's going to help you just add some of that nice melodic quality to your accompaniment when playing with other musicians. And eventually you'll end up here, being able to freely play lead lines from the C major pentatonic, whilst being very cognizant of your chord tones and where your chords lie in relation to those particular notes. And the reason that the major scale is so great is because all chords are just built from intervals or notes within that scale. So if you want to embellish some of these triads further, you can pick some notes from your scale to add a little bit more colour. The major 7 is a great use case for that, especially in a major key. In the case of C major, our 1 chord, if you add your B which is just here on the 7th fret, that gives a really nice colour tone, which again just adds a bit more interest and variety to the sound. So as I mentioned, this is just a starting point. I hope it gives you some things to at least practice and to start thinking about in terms of accompaniment. I keep it simple because I also think that the simplest kind of approach is often the most musical in a lot of situations. You know, we're in a supportive role, so you don't want to make your playing too busy or kind of too out there. You want to be a little bit more restrained in your approach. So just taking your time in developing this, I think will really put you in a good position when playing along to other songs or just playing with other people. So if you did find this video helpful, do make sure to give it a thumbs up and leave a comment down below and let me know where you're at in your journey of sort of accompanying and writing your own guitar parts. If you did find it helpful, but if you want to see more, if you have any questions, then the comments is the place to go. Just leave a comment down there and I'll get back to you. And I can maybe make some more videos on this topic moving forward. As always, thank you so much for watching. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already and ring the bell to get notified when new videos go live. Videos go out every Wednesday and every Sunday, so I hope to see you in the next one. Take care, guys. See you soon.